These are the actions of a species unbound by law, driven solely by greed. In the illusion of dominion, Errol declared, his voice slicing through the chamber like a blade. He stood tall at the center of the council hall, his dark marble-like skin drinking in the harsh light. The golden scales on his shoulders and arms shimmered with each subtle movement, glinting like a silent warning of his authority. His sister are an unmistakable display of contempt as his sharp reptilian eyes scanned the room, locking onto any who dared meet his gaze. Every motion was deliberate, his clawed hands slicing toward the looping holograms above him, driving his point into the very core of the council. Errol didn't just command attention, he seized it, leaving no space for defiance. The ram cycled in an unending loop, human ships ripping asteroids apart, colossal drills burrowed growing deep into rock colonies, sprouting like invasive weeds on barren moons. Pulsating red overlays bathed the projections, stark warnings of a creeping contagion, each symbolizing violations of neutral zones. Ara's clawed hands swept upward in a deliberate motion, allowing the images to amplify his unspoken accusations. Across the chamber, murmur rippled through the holographic forms of the assembled delegations, their reactions ranging from subtle tilts of curiosity to an ominous shared silence in their insatiable pursuit of expansion. Errol continued, his voice steeped in disdain. Humanity defile the sanctity of galactic law. Their arrogance is a disease spreading rot through the balance we have fought so tirelessly to maintain. He paused, his dark reptilian eyes scanning the room. I call for immediate malaria action to rectify this threat before it spreads further. A wave of unease swept through the chamber, the holographic delegations flickering slightly as murmurs rippled among them. In contrast, the physically present council members remained stoic, their gazes locked on the confrontation between Errol and Pure. One or two beings dared to voice tentative concerns, but most remained silent, their gazes drawn back to the looping images above. Errol turned slightly, the calculated movement amplifying his presence. He towered above even the tallest projection, his shadow cutting a sharp line across the polished floor of the council. Ridiculous, came a steady, defiant voice from across the chamber. Samuel Poirier, Chancellor of Earth, rose from his seat with deliberate calm. His silver hair was immaculate, his dark suit a stark contrast to the glaring projections above his stance, radiating unshakable confidence despite the odds. Pierre's gaze, sharp and piercing, locked onto Errol with unwavering confidence. This is nothing more than a desperate fabrication. The room fell silent save for the faint hum of the holographic projectors. Errol's crista twitched, his golden scales shifting imperceptibly as his gaze settled on Pure. The tension between them was palpable. These so-called proofs you have presented, Poirier continued, gesturing toward the holograms, are riddled with inconsistencies. The timestamps alone contradict galactic traffic records, and those coordinates you've marked as neutral zones, they've been uninhabited for decades. He paused, his voice hardening. This is a blatant attempt to manipulate this council. Mind your accusations, human. Errol interrupted, his voice low and venomous. You tread dangerous close to insulting this council and its principles. Poirier took a measured step forward, his hands clasped firmly behind his back. I'm insulting no one, I'm exposing the truth. The murmurs returned louder this time as delegations turned their attention from Errol to Pure. A few shifted in what seemed like approval. Others remained statuesque, their alien faces unreadable. Errol's lips curled into a faint snarl. Your words are hollow. Humanity has always spoken of truth while its actions devour the galaxy. The council will not stand idly by as your kind tramples our lost. Poet's eyes narrowed. Humanity has upheld every treaty set forth by this council, even as others have. With a gesture, Errol caught Pierre's voice out mids sentence. The chamber's audio dampened around him, silencing his words in a calculated hum. Humiliating display. A shocked silence enveloped the chamber. Some delegations turned their projections toward Errol while others remained frozen, processing the sudden breach of protocol. Errol stepped forward, his voice slicing through the quiet. The session will continue without interruption. His tone left no room for dissent. Behind him, the damning projections cycled relentlessly, a silent accuser in the tense chamber. Poirier stood motionless, his hands brushing the edge of the polished console that had just severed his voice. Adjusting the lapels of his suit with deliberate precision, he turned without a word. Each step toward the exit carried An unspoken defiance resonating in the charged atmosphere at the edge of the chamber. A figure emerged from the shadows, its translucent form glowing faintly, a rhythm that pulsed like a heartbeat. Scar moved with an unhurried grace, his presence otherworldly yet commanding. Leaning close to Errol, his whisper was low, melodic, and dangerous. Congratulations, Sadhar murmured, his light flickering briefly. You just declared war on the wrong species. The faint chime of an alert broke the tense silence as Chancellor Samuel Poirier strode through the corridors outside the council chamber. He pulled a sleek PDA from his jacket, its interface glowing faintly against the dim light. Urgent notifications cascaded across the screen, each marked with the seal of the Colonial Emergency Network. His expression, already hardened from the humiliation in the council, darkened further as he swiped through the reports. Then the first video began to play. It was chaos. Grainy footage from a colony security drone showed civilians running through narrow corridors of metal shelters. Smoke filled the frame, masking the details, but the screams were unmistakable. In the distance, the recognizable shadow of a Thorn dreadnought loomed over the colony, its plasma cannons lighting up the horizon. Explosions ripped through the structures. As the camera jolted violently, the feed ended abruptly, replaced by the cold, sterile silence of the next report. The second video was no better. A mining outpost on a barren moon, once peaceful, was now an inferno. Thorn infantry moved through the settlement, their towering forms mercilessly gunning down anyone who resisted. A child's cry pierced through the static before the camera feed cut to black. Poirier tightened his grip on the PDA, the edges of the device digging into his palm as he struggled to steady himself. The relentless cascade of reports only grew worse. Theta Delta Caliban reach, all engulfed in flames, all under brutal assault. His jaw clenched as he strode through the docking bay, ignoring the salutes of nearby officers, his focus solely on reaching the shuttle waiting to return him to Unity, the human flagship station nearby. There he could address the fleet with the full weight of his command. He had barely stepped onto the command deck of Unity when the terminal at his side chimed with an incoming transmission. The notification was urgent, its tone cutting through the controlled chaos of the flagship's operations. He straightened his suit, brushing away the creases from his rushed arrival, and accepted the call. The holographic figure of Admiral Ian Mann flickered to life before him, his broad frame and stern expression radiating authority. Hausman wasted no time, his voice was sharp, unrelenting. Chancellor Hausman began without preamble. We receiving scattered reports of attacks across the colonies. What the hell happened at the council? Pierre's lips tightened into a grim line. The Thorn leader Errol presented fabricated evidence of humanity's so-called violations. Before I could refute him, they cut the transmission. It was a coordinated humiliation, Ian, and now he gestured toward the console. This Hausman's expression hardened further as he processed the information. This wasn't just about silencing you, they're playing the long game, setting the stage for something bigger. Exactly, Poirier said, his voice low but fierce. This isn't diplomacy, Admiral, it's war, and you have full authorization to respond accordingly. Strike back with everything we've got. Mann nodded, his tone firm. I'll convene the fleet commanders immediately. We'll need to secure evacuation routes and protect what colonies we can. Poirier leaned closer, his gaze unflinching. Ian, we cannot afford to look weak. Let them see what humanity is capable of when we are pushed. Yes, Chancellor Hausman replied, his voice like steel. The transmission ended, leaving Poirier alone with the quiet hum of the chamber, a silence that seemed to echo humanity's fragile position. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship Unity, Admiral Ian Hausman wasted no time on the command deck. He turned to the tactical officer, his expression a mask of focused determination. Around him the air buzzed with controlled urgency as crew members worked feverishly at their stations. Holographic maps projected in front of him displayed the colonies under attack, each marked with a pulsating red beacon that seemed to grow brighter with every second. Lieutenant Rivera, Mann said, his voice sharp and commanding, compile every fleet within range of the colonies. I want their captains on secure comms in minutes. Inform them of the situation and send them the attack reports. Rivera nodded briskly, focusing intently as she worked the console with precision. Yes, sir, I'll ensure the data is transmitted immediately. Holman's focus locked onto the shifting holograms. Each glowing red marker felt like a blow to his core, but he pushed the way of it Aside, send the order. All available fleets are to mobilize and reinforce the colonies under attack. No hesitation. Tell them to move now. The command was executed within seconds, the crew springing into action as orders rippled through the chain of command across the holographic display. Blue markers representing human fleets began shifting, converging toward the colonies under siege. Man lingered for a moment as he observed the data feeds before stepping away above the colony of Theta. The sky more than minutes before the Thorn catch on, so we'll need to move fast. A murmur of agreement passed through the team. Ville's gaze swept over them, his tone softening just enough to carry reassurance. You've all been chosen for this because you're the best. Let's get it done. Minutes later, the Pandora's box emerged from hyperspace on the outskirts of the Thorn-controlled system. The ship's advanced closed systems hummed to life as it approached the target. Inside, the team prepared for deployment. The ship docked silently with the Thorn station, its grappling arms latching onto an exposed maintenance airlock. The team disembarked swiftly, their movements rehearsed to perfection. The interior of the station was cold and dimly lit, the metallic walls adorned with Thorn glyphs that pulsed faintly with energy. Vale led the way, his weapon held low but ready, his steps muffled against the cold metallic floor. The team moved like shadows, each motion precise and rehearsed, slipping past patrols and bypassing security systems with Rose's calculated precision. The faint hum of alien machinery filled the air, an ever-present reminder of where they were and the danger that loomed. They reached the central control room without incident, an expansive chamber filled with towering consoles and holographic displays. Roe approached the central console, deftly navigating the alien interface with practiced expertise. The virus, a marvel of human ingenuity, was designed to infiltrate the Thorn systems undetected, spreading chaos across their communication networks. She inserted the device, a sleek black module, and initiated the upload package. Deploying, Roe announced minutes to completion. The tension in the room was palpable as the team secured the perimeter. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside, Thorn patrols closing. Ville signaled for silence, his grip tightening on his weapon. Contact A Marine whispered, raising his rifle. Hold fire. Ville ordered. Let them pass. The Thorn patrol moved past the doorway, their guttural voices fading into the distance. Roe exhaled softly, her focus unbroken as the virus completed its upload. Done, she said, disconnecting the module. We're good to go. Ville signaled to his team and they moved swiftly through the dim corridors, retracing their path back to their ship. Each step was calculated, every shadow scrutinized as they avoided the patrols that had begun to stir. When they reached their airlock, the Pandora's box was waiting, its docking clamps ready to disengage. The team boarded quickly, the hiss of pressurization signaling their return to safety as the ship pulled away from the Thorn station. Cloaking systems humming to life. Ville activated his comms. This is Ville, the box is open. Admiral Hausman received the message. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Understood, Captain. Good job. He turned to Lieutenant Rivera, his voice firm. Begin phase. Yes, Admiral. Rivera replied, her expression mirroring his faint smile as she leaned into her station to execute the command. And across the sector, the virus unleashed its chaos. Thorn dreadnoughts drifted erratically, their navigation systems caught in a web of phantom signals that pulled them off course. VY strike cruisers faltered, their sleek formations splintering under conflicting orders. The once coordinated fleets now moved like disoriented predators, their strength undercut by confusion. Communication relays crackled with distorted transmissions spreading in confusion and disarray. Despite the chaos, the THN and VY forces pressed their attacks. Their numerical advantage was staggering, and even disorganized, they posed a formidable threat. Human forces fought valiantly to hold the line, their coordinated strikes and tactical ingenuity making up for their lack of numbers on the ground. Marines and civilians worked together to repel wave after wave of enemy assaults. Makeshift barricades turned city streets into battlegrounds, each skirmish a desperate bid for survival. In orbit, human ships danced through the chaos, exploiting every opportunity to strike back. Admiral Hausman stood tall at the center of the command deck, his sharp eyes fixed on the tactical updates flickering across the holographic display. The chaos was evident, but so were the patterns emerging within it. They're fragmented, he said, his voice calm but decisive. This is our opening. Lieutenant Rivera, send orders to all battle groups. Launch coordinated. Strikes to reclaim lost positions. Priority is evacuation zones and critical outposts. Rivera nodded orders. Sent Admiral across the embattled colonies. Humanity seized the opportunity. Ships broke from defensive perimeters, targeting isolated enemy vessels with surgical precision in orbit around Theta. A squadron of human fighters darted between hulking Thorn warships there. Maneuvers sharp and calculated. The lead pilot, Commander Hassan, barked orders. Into his comms squadron, focus fire on their engines. Ground teams need us to keep these bastards busy. The fighters darted through a storm of plasma fire, striking weak points with pinpoint accuracy. One Thorn destroyer erupted in a cascade of flames, its massive hull splitting as its core destabilized below. Marines and civilians cheered as the glow of the explosion lit up the smoke-filled sky at Caliban's reach. Lieutenant Commander Kulich had returned to lead another evacuation effort. The settlement's narrow corridors, still scarred from the first assault, echoed with the desperate rush of civilians fleeing to waiting transports. Kulich stood at the edge of the perimeter, his rifle braced as he directed his team, keep the lanes clear. We don't leave anyone behind. His voice cut through the chaos as his Marines formed a tight wall of defense against the advancing Thorn infantry. The air crackled with gunfire and the deep guttural roars of the Thorn, but the Marines held their ground. Overhead, human drop ships descended, their heavy cannons pounding the enemy lines. Kulich signaled to his team, final wave, move out, but the attack was far from over. The Thorn reinforcements arrived with a vengeance. Dozens of ships emerged from hyperspace, their colossal silhouettes casting shadows over the embattled colonies. Among them, a command vessel bristling with weaponry loomed at the center of the fleet, its captain, a Thorn warlord with jagged golden scales, barked orders to his crew, his guttural voice resonating through the bridge. Regroup the fleets, smash their defenses, and bring this sector under control. But the humans were ready, hidden within the rugged shadows of the Delta Systems asteroid belt. A contingent of human ships lay in silent ambush, tracking the Thorn reinforcements' trajectory with meticulous precision. They waited like predators ready to strike. Hold your positions, Captain Serbala ordered, his voice low but firm. Wait for them to enter the kill zone. The Thorn ships moved into the system, their formation tightening as they advanced. They believed they were regrouping for a decisive strike, unaware of the human fleet lying silent in the shadows. When the first ships crossed the asteroid field's threshold, Serbala gave the command. Engage. The asteroid belt lit up as concealed human vessels sprang to life, their rail guns and missile batteries unleashing hell. The Thorn ships, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. Explosions rippled through their formation as human firepower struck critical systems. The command vessel reeled as a barrage of rail gun slugs pierced its hull, its golden glow dimming as its shields collapsed. Serbal's crew worked with mechanical precision, targeting weak points and isolating the Thorn ships one by one. The enemy's numerical advantage faltered as their confusion deepened, yet even amidst the ambush the Thorn refused to yield. They fought back with a ferocity that left several human ships damaged, forcing the Dias to reposition to avoid direct fire. Captain, their flagship is trying to escape, a tactical officer reported. Not today, Serbala replied. All units focus fire on their engines, don't let them regroup. As the human fleet closed in, the Thorn flagship erupted in a fiery explosion, its wreckage scattering across the battlefield. The remaining enemy vessels broke off, retreating into hyperspace to regroup. The ambush had bought precious time, but it came at a cost. Sir Bala's voice softened as he addressed his crew. Good work, everyone, let's get the survivors home. The reports flooded into Hone's command station, each one painting a picture of hard-won victories and mounting sacrifices the colonies had held but barely. The virus had done its job, buying the time humanity needed to regroup. Now the counter-offensive could begin, Admiral Rivera said, stepping beside him. The evac zones are clear and key positions are secure, but enemy reinforcements are on their way. Hussman's focus stayed locked on the holographic map. Let them come, he said firmly. It's time to end this. Man finished speaking, his gaze lingering on the vast expanse beyond the viewport. There, the colossal fleets, an inspiring force of towering silhouettes emerging from the void, were converging with his own fleet. He raised a hand, his tone calm yet commanding. They'll get relief. Turning to the communications officer, he added, open a secure channel. All battle groups. The room fell silent as the order was carried out. The tactical display shifted, and then at the far edge of the Map something changed. A new formation materialized, massive, powerful, and unmistakable. Prepare for their arrival, man said, his tone brimming with authority. Bring them in. At the edge of the conflict, space itself tore open with a thunderous ripple from the swirling void of hyperspace. The Medusa emerged, a titan of human engineering, in the first of the Leviathan-class battleships. Its immense hull gleamed under the pale starlight, a monolith of power and defiance, bristling with weaponry and protected by humanity's most advanced defenses. It was a fortress designed to dominate. The Medusa did not arrive alone. Dozens of smaller warships followed in its wake, forming a disciplined vanguard. Each vessel moved with precision, their sleek designs and cutting-edge systems a testament to humanity's ingenuity. The fleet spread out like an iron wave, their arrival a stark contrast to the battered Bagua ships already locked in the fight. On board the Medusa, Admiral Ezra Zephaniah stood on the command deck, exuding an unshakable presence around him. His crew moved with clockwork efficiency, their faces marked by determination. The tactical map before him displayed the chaos of battle, an unrelenting detail. Status report. Zephaniah ordered enemy forces remain concentrated around the colonies. His EXO replied, they're heavily fortified, but their formations are fractured. They haven't detected us yet. Zephaniah's lips curved into a faint smile. Good, let's make an impression. The Medusa surged forward, its engines a low thunderous growl. Flanking ships moved in perfect synchronization, their weapon systems charging in unison across the tactical map. Human forces began to shift, retreating slightly as they prepared to fall in line with the Leviathan fleet. The impact was immediate. The Medusa's main cannon roared to life, unleashing a searing beam of energy that sliced through space with merciless precision, its impact shattering the THN Dren in a cascade of destruction. The beam struck a THN dreadnought, slicing cleanly through its shields and hull. The ship erupted in a massive explosion, its remains scattering like debris caught in a storm. The smaller human ships followed suit, targeting vulnerable enemy vessels with deadly precision. Rail guns roared, missile salvos streaked through the void in the sky, burned with the light of the assault. The Thorn and Vay forces, caught off guard by the sudden arrival of the Leviathan fleet, faltered. Their already fractured formations broke further as panic spread among their ranks on the ground. Marines and civilians paused in their frantic defenses to watch the sky. The sight of the Medusa and its fleet obliterating the enemy brought a surge of hope. Cheers erupted across the colonies as human forces rallied, pushing back against the disoriented attackers in orbit. Admiral Zephaniah issued precise orders, his voice steady amidst the chaos. Focus on their command ships, break their chain of command completely and keep the Medusa moving. Don't give them a stationary target. Inside the Thorn command vessel, chaos reigned. The warlord snarled orders, his golden scales glinting under the dim light. Regroup the fleet, counterattack, do not let them. His words were cut short as a shock wave rippled through the ship, throwing the crew into disarray. The Medusa's firepower had breached the vessel's defenses and its systems were failing. Alarms blared, the ship's interior shaking as explosions tore through its hull. The warlord bared his teeth, his rage boiling over, but it was futile. His command ship disintegrated in a blinding burst of fire and debris on the Medusa. The crew erupted into cheers as the command ship was destroyed. Zephaniah allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction before turning to the comms officer, patch me through to the fleet. A moment later, his voice echoed across the comm channels, this is Admiral Zephaniah. The enemy's command structure is in shambles. Press the advantage, no mercy. The Lev fleet pushed forward, their assault relentless. One by one, the remaining THN and Vay ships were obliterated or forced into retreat. The tide had turned and the enemy's once overwhelming presence was reduced to scattered remnants fleeing into the void. Admiral Mann watched the tactical display as the markers of enemy ships blinked out one after another. The battle was over. His crew exchanged smiles and nods, but the admiral remained composed. He stepped forward, his voice carrying a weight that silenced the room. Open a channel to Errol. The comms officer hesitated for a fraction of a second before nodding. Moments later, the holographic image of the leader appeared. Errol's expression was twisted with rage and desperation, his golden scales dulled. Hussman's gaze was cold, his words deliberate. You wanted war, Errol, you have it, and now we're coming for all Maris. The transmission ended abruptly. Errol stood frozen, his sharp claws gripping the edges of his command disc. He turned sharply to his crew, his voice a sharp growl. Order all forces to retreat to all Maris. They must not reach our system. At the same time, man turned to Rivera, his expression determined. Send the next. Leviathan at the edge of the Sigma system. The void itself seemed to shatter as a second rupture tore through the darkness. From the blinding chaos of hyperspace emerged the Dauntless, the second of the Leviathan-class battleships, its angular hull a monument to human defiance, exuded menace. Every inch designed for war, a mobile fortress bristling with advanced weaponry, shield emitters, and the scars of countless battles already endured. Behind it followed a contingent of warships, carriers, destroyers, and smaller attack craft, their engines glowing faintly in the void. The fleet had been assembled for one purpose: to retake the stations and outposts that had fallen under Thorn and Vay control and eliminate all their menace over sector, restoring human dominance over these critical positions. On board the Dauntless, Admiral Kalen stood at the center of the command deck, a power and figure with a square jaw and piercing gaze. Kalen had earned his reputation as a tactician who thrived under pressure. Around him the hum of activity was relentless, officers relaying orders and status reports with practiced efficiency. Status? Kalen asked, his voice sharp but controlled as EXO. Commander Jansen gestured to the tactical display. Thorn and Vay forces remain entrenched around the stations. Their positions are fortified, but they haven't detected us yet. We're reading multiple troop transports and supply ships among their ranks. Cian studied the map, his expression unreadable. Good, if we hit them fast they won't have time to regroup. Begin the approach. The first salvo came without warning. The Dauntless unleashed its main cannon, a rail gun of unprecedented power. Its projectile tear staring through space faster than the eye could follow. It struck a Vay command ship, the impact splitting the vessel in two as fire and debris spilled into the void before the enemy could react. The supporting human ships opened fire, their coordinated assault overwhelming the outer defenses inside one of the besieged stations. Lieutenant Lla Manuelos, a veteran Marine and one of the few humans left behind during the initial Thn assault, watched the carnage unfold from a viewport. The Dauntless filled the sky like a colossus, its weaponry pounding the enemy ships with ruthless precision. Lieutenant one of her Marines called, breaking her trance. Orders from the fleet were to secure the station's core and prepare for extraction. Manuelos nodded sharply. You heard him. Move out. The Marines swept through the station with practiced precision, retaking one sector after another. Manuelos led from the front, her rifle snapping off precise shots as they pushed deeper into Thorn-occupied areas. The arrival of the Dauntless